Hi there and welcome to Tactical Magfed. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to remove the top slide and do some basic maintenance on your Umarex T4E Glock 17 Gen 5 Paintball pistol. Check it out. Hi there and welcome back to Tactical Magfed. As I said in the intro, I'm going to be showing you a little trick on how you can remove this top slide and then showing you some basic maintenance stuff you can do after you've taken it off. Okay, so with all these Umarex paintball pistols, it's been notoriously difficult to get the top slides off and do your own basic maintenance. In the manuals and everything else, it does state that there's minimal need to have to take these things apart, and if you do have to take them apart to maintain the top slide, then they should be going back to manufacturer. But and there's a big but, the other ones you could take off, but you had to push out all the pins and take all the working internals at the top, and then the slide would come off. The Umarex promo for this, the pre-release of this pistol, showed you a very nice lady on the production line at Umarex putting the pistols together at various stages. And I noticed she had this pistol with all the internals installed, i.e. without all the pins removed. The trigger mechanism was in there, the hammer mechanism was in there, and she had the top slide, and she would put in the valve in the top slide separately, and then she kind of goes out of shot for a bit and puts the slide on and hands it to the guy or something like that. But I remembered in that video, I was like, the top slide was off the pistol and all the internals were in, so the pins must have been in, and then the next thing you know, the slide's on. So I thought, is this pistol going to come with a working slide release? It doesn't. That's the first thing I checked out, and it kept playing over and over and over in my mind that there's a way of getting this slide off, or at least there's a way of putting it on without taking the pins out, so maybe there's a way of taking it off without taking the pins out. And that's partly why I'm making this video. So why would you want to take the pins out? Well, there's metal on plastic and metal on metal parts in here, so you might want to put a little bit of grease on those parts to help wear and tear. You might also want to put a little bit of lubrication in where the trigger mechanism and everything moves about in there as well. So you might want to do some basic maintenance on this, and we'll cover what you can do, some basic maintenance as we go along. But this is pretty cool. So played around with this thing, tried to find out if there was any official gubbins on how you do this, and there isn't, but I'll just get into it. So firstly, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some gloves on, because you do need to have a bit of grip on this. It takes a bit of practice, and it takes a bit of oomph or brute force, however you want to put it. And I'll take off this torch, remove the mag. Okay, so we've got the pistol, and it's completely safe. Okay, so removing the slide. Now, what you have to do is you have to push this slide as far back as you can, hold it there, and then ease up the rear end of the slide, and it will come out and over. There's a where the hammer in the back here is, and the valves and things for the blowback of the slide. They all sit in this back section here. Okay, so what you're doing is you're pushing it as far as you can, then nudging it a quarter of an inch further on the spring, and it will come out of the mechanism. There's also, I'll show you when it's off, but there's a little metal guide there, and a metal guide at the back here, I think, and the slide has a milled groove on it. You can grease if you need to. So what you're doing is you're getting it to the end of that, and to the point where it will come back out and over the top. There's no risk of this flying off when it's being fired, but when it's under tension under the spring, you just have to take it further than it can go, and it will come off. Without further ado, I'll get into it. One of the tricks that I use when I'm doing this is I use the inside of this trigger frame as a push reference. So essentially what you're doing is you're pushing this as far back as you can like that. Hold it there. Put my thumb through the trigger there, and see it on the top camera, through the trigger there, and then I'm hooking the front of the slide with my forefinger. So I've got it like that, and all I'm doing is pushing that a little bit as far back as I can, and then what happens is there you go, bit of a wiggle and the final push, and you're off and over the top. There we go. Like I said, it takes a bit of brute force and a bit of confidence, but you can get it off there. And then effectively what it does, it slides over the top, comes off. The top slide off, the spring is out, and you have the pistol. So you can fire that hammer back, and it just gives you a better sort of look at what's going on on the internals. So as you can see, there's the two guide rails. So when you're pushing the slide back the way you are, you get into the back end of these sections so that you can come along and round and up. So that's when you're pushing it back, you kind of got to push it back, keep it as flat as possible, and as you get into the end, you push the rear end of this up and you'll come up and round these bits. Takes a bit of practice and a lot of confidence in that you're not going to break it. It is stiff and it's quite difficult to do, but it's achievable, and it does work. I've tried it on all the other pistols. This does not work on the PPQ, it does not work on the MMP. It is literally only this version of this marker that it works on. Okay, so while we've got the slide off, let's look at some options for maintaining it. So this is the trigger mechanism. So on all the pistols, it has this single action trigger, and as you pull the trigger, it pulls the barrel into the magazine, and then the magazine fires the pellet or the paintball, whatever you got in there, out through the barrel. So it just gives you a good view of that without the slide on. So that's quite interesting. Like I say, there's moving parts on here, so you can either grease these on the pistol or grease the slide. It's probably a better idea to grease the slide. But while we've got this out, with this going in and out of here, it might be worth putting a dab of oil on there, on the internals. And what happens, if you want to strip this down further, remove these two pins here, and you go from the rounded end out. So I think it's from the right to left. So these rounded ends here, you push that pin out and you push that pin out. You take that one out to do the back straps. Check the description of this video because I will be putting a playlist together for this pistol, and I've done, if they're not in there already, there will be coming a video doing the back straps and installing the lanyard. But yeah, if you push that one out and that one out, I think this all pulls out as one big unit, and then you get access to the trigger, so you can get in there and grease the trigger if you wanted to do that. But yeah, there you go. That gives you a good look at the internals from up there, and you can even dry fire it. That's the hammer there that would hit the pin on the back of the mag. It's all quite interesting. If you want to see what that looks like with the mag in it, with the top on, there you go. That sits in there. The valve is in the back of this, so that would sit in there. The hammer hits that pin and then comes through there and hits the valve in the back of the mag. So yeah, there's not much to the underside of this slide. So if I put the pistol down for a minute, here you can see the grooves. So there's an entry there and a slide, an entry there to the slide. So as you can see, when you're sliding it all the way out, you're getting it to the point that you can come out of these. There's an entry groove there and an entry groove there. I don't know how well this is going to be coming out on the video. Maybe if I put it down low, there you go. There and there. And the pins go in there and then the slide goes in there. So as you're removing this, you're putting it all as far as you can to get to these exit areas, entry, exit, and then you're sliding, pulling the slide off. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to put a drop of oil onto my trigger. So I'm going to leave that mag again. There's a canister, but it's empty. It's completely inert. So I'm just going to pull the trigger back to the point where I've got that exposed. Put a dab of oil in there. I'm going to wipe it away with a rag and work it in. What you don't really want is oodles of oil sticking in there. So you get some in, wipe it away, just keep working that until there you go. There's a bit of oil on there. I'll burn the excess. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dab of grease on these points here for no other reason than they are metal on metal, so it's aluminium on aluminium in here, and it might just help the longevity of that, the longevity of the slide. Not going to go crazy, but yeah, you'd normally use grease on metal, or something thicker on metal. Kind of a nice soggy glove. I don't know how Umarex will feel about this advice. This is my personal kind of advice regarding maintenance of this. But yeah, mainly I want to show you how to get this slide off, because a lot of people are interested in how to take these things apart. That's the easiest way I've found to get the slide off. You haven't got to remove any pins, and you can just put a bit of grease in there. Before you put this back on, obviously you need to engage that hammer, because this mechanism needs to go back in that hole in the back. It all slots in there. Okay, so you put your spring back on first to put the slide back on, then engage. There's a little recess in there for the spring, so you get the spring in there and gently get that coming back. And that's reverse of what we did before. You're pushing this as far back as you can to the point where it goes back over the top. And again, you put your finger through here and push, and you'll just feel it gently sort of drop back down the rear of the marker. There you go. And they're back on, and then you let the part slide forward. It's always a nervous time taking a marker apart, and so isn't it? Do you have to do this? No. Would you do it? Completely up to you. That's just greased that. So all that's effectively doing is I've greased the inner rail of the slide where it's metal on metal to try and give it some longevity on both sides. I put a little bit of grease on that section there, and as you can see, you don't want anything getting inside the barrel, because if you get grease inside the barrel or in your end of your mag, you might affect your paint. But nicely lubricated part of the barrel there, and the slide is moving nicely now as well. Generally speaking, put the mag back in. Generally speaking, the maintenance on these pistols is very low. All you really need is something like this, some pellet gun oil, which is basically, I can't remember if it's silicon, petroleum based. It's non-silicon. I can't remember what it is, but this is essentially, this is a Crossman gun oil designed for their air pistol, the CO2 pistols that they make, the pellet guns and BBs and all the rest of it. And what you do is, when you're changing out your gas, your CO2s, you put a drop of oil on the valve in there, and then you put your CO2 in and off you go and play, and that will run, you know, each time you're using your pistol, run a bit of oil through here, and it will oil the O-rings and things and valves in your mag. It will just service your mag. What they've also got is these. So these are actually branded Walther, but these are Umarex valve maintenance capsules. Is what they go on. They look exactly the same as your 12 gram CO2 that you'd get normally, but these have, I think it's something like 8%. Let's have a look. 0.5 grams. 0.5 grams of special oil. Doesn't say what it is. It's got special oil in it. What Umarex recommend is every 250 shots you run one of their canisters through it. The manual for these capsules say 1,000, but I think these are for like air pistols. So yeah, you can kind of, every time you use one of these, you can get 3 mags out of it. So what's that? 3, maybe 4 mags. So let's say every 10 uses of this, you run one of these capsules through it. That's Umarex's recommendation. They recommend using one of their oil capsules, and you run it through here until the capsule's dispensed. One of the nicest ways, rather than just sit there shooting it till the gas runs out, get yourself some rubber balls and do some target practice in the garden or down farm or the field or something like that. I don't know if they recommend actually using it in gameplay, so whether you'd use it out in a game, because when you shoot this thing with that much oil in it, 0.5 of a gram of oil is quite a lot, I'd imagine. It will spurt out the end of the barrel, and you don't want to be shooting people with paint and covering them in oil as well. They might not be too chuffed about that. So yeah, definitely recommend just some light plinking, if you like, in the garden with some either paint or chalk balls or rubber rounds on a target, and just enjoy your paintball pistol for a few shots. Okay, so we've covered the maintenance of the mag, we've covered taking the slide off, we've covered taking the slide off and just doing some light maintenance on that. Just let me know your thoughts in the comments below. For the most part, you shouldn't have to remove this slide. If you're gonna do it, it takes a little bit of confidence and commitment. As long as you get that slide to the full extension, on the fully extended back, you'll feel when it can come off. Don't force it. If it doesn't feel like it's going to move and lift off, don't force it, because all you're pushing against is the aluminium of the groove in the slide against the aluminium of those two little extrusions, like the guides, the metal bits that stick out, the guides that are greased. You're pushing against those. So all you're going to end up doing is either chipping one of the guides or the slide. Once it goes, you'll feel it lift off, and you kind of just have to find that sweet spot at the very end extension of the slide on the way back. Yeah, so let me know will you guys be trying this. You're not interested in taking the slide off. Are you stoked that this particular model of the T4E pistols has this capability to do this? Or does it not really float your boat? If you like this video, you found it useful, go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, bell notifications. There are going to be a bunch of videos on this pistol, so if you check the description below, there'll be a playlist dedicated to this, the Umarex T4E Glock 17 Gen 5. Putting red dots on, installing the lanyard on the bottom here and the back straps. There's all individual videos on doing stuff like that. If they're not there now, they will be in the coming weeks. So I'll stop my rambling. All that remains to be said is thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting, and I look forward to seeing you